Our next question, Jim, sent in to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Christian. My name is Christian. I'm from...
Well, sounds like a good name for you there.
Is it Staunton, Virginia? Do you know this town?
Stanton, Virginia.
Stanton, Virginia. My dad and I are big fans of the Drive-Thru, and I wanted to throw this your way. A friend of mine is a member of a Facebook group of people who discuss Marvin Ward and the money he owes all of them. Marvin Ward is the man that screwed the Undertaker and Kane out of money and wanted you to come to Waynesboro, Virginia last year.
Oh, yes.
Only to not follow up with you. My friend sent me screenshots where Marvin is apparently coming back under a new alias, Austin Douglas Ward.
Oh, no.
This, however, is not all because he sent another screenshot saying Marvin is trying to get the rights to Smoky Mountain Wrestling and start running shows again. Your thoughts? And let me click on this. He sent 2 links. This is from one of the pages. Just found out he legally changed his name to Austin Douglas Ward. Just found out from a reliable source that during the whole Kane Undertaker debacle that Marvin purchased him a new car and house. I don't know who him would be.
No, himself.
Oh, himself. I was also told he was going to try and get the rights to Smoky Mountain Wrestling and start running shows again. So,
well, good luck to him with that because he'll be dealing with Vince's legal department. But no, Marvin Ward's this fucking con man that I've known him for 25 years. We actually first ran across him. He was supposed to promote Smoky Mountain Wrestling events in Waynesboro and maybe in Stanton, but 2 towns up there on a weekend. He had been bugging us. It's his hometown. He wanted to run shows, everything. We booked him with 2 cards. And then he had run a show the month before, and he brought in Abdullah the Butcher, and he lost too much money, and his father wouldn't let him have any more money to run shows, so he canceled on us. And we had to pay the fucking guys because we had booked them, and there was no way to redo it at the time. So anyway, that was in 1994. He was an idiot then. Then he came back. For a while, he was running shows up there that would sell out these big 1,500-seat, 2,000-seat high school gyms because basketball's big up there. But he had great local promotion because he was from there and he knew everybody and et cetera, et cetera. But then he'd always do something where he'd overreach himself, do something foolish, owe a bunch of people money, and have to go away for long periods of time. And I can't recite it chapter and verse because it's been incessant. He'll resurface somewhere. He'll run a couple of shows that fucking work out. Then he'll try to run a big one, take a bunch of fucking money, or fuck up at one point, people were looking for him because he had promised people they were going to China. And I either took China's money or somebody that was a middleman and disappeared. He's the one that did that fucking ridiculous pay-per-view from Waynesboro, Virginia, AWE, Awesome Wrestling Entertainment, that Kevin Nash and Ricky Morton supposedly had a shoot fight on, supposedly. It never ends with this fucking guy. And he had booked me. I told the story on the show here, but I'll tell it briefly. I was at a comic book convention here in Louisville about 1.5 years ago, setting up my booth, and I see Marvin and some of his guys, right? And somebody told me, yeah, Marvin's booked the Undertaker to come and do an appearance in Waynesboro. He's giving him $50,000. And I said, well, hell, tell him I'll come to Waynesboro for $5,000 as a joke, right? Here comes Marvin Ward. Will you come? Will you come? I said, for $5,000? Yeah, I'll come. So he books me on another show that he's going to have in Waynesboro for $5,000 with the Rock and Roll Express. I said, okay, I'll believe this when I see it. And sure enough, wouldn't you know who won the pony? He sold a bunch of tickets to see Undertaker and Kane, but not enough to cover the expense, allegedly. Canceled that show. Called me and told me that he was still going to run the other show that I was on until he got a letter from the fire department there in Waynesboro saying that because of the renovations going on to the gym, they couldn't have any wrestling shows until the fire department said okay, and then nobody ever heard from him again. And people still trying to get their money back off that Undertaker and Kane thing, including Kane, who he gave a bad check to. So if he's changed his name, the problem is he keeps forgetting to change the Ward part, because the Ward part is the part that's mud in that part of the country and in the wrestling business, because everybody now knows he's a goof and an idiot and a crook. But I mean, he's always been an idiot all his life. He's a country bumpkin. He reminds me, he's like the Virginia version of fucking Ernest T. Bass down there in Knoxville. But he was a wrestler for a while.
Doug Gibson.
Doug Gibson. So that's what the name he was using when we had him book those shows in Smoky Mountain. And he came down to do promos for him. And we clued Robert Gibson in, and he comes out because Doug's a baby face and starts going, yeah, that's right. And he starts cutting his promo. Doug Gibson wrestling somebody in fucking Waynesboro.
Roger Anderson.
Roger Anderson. There you go. And then you've seen this, you asshole. Then he walks off, and then Robert Gibson walks in and says, hey, who's that asshole calling himself Gibson? He ain't related to me. It was funny he had to be there. Anyway, yes, he needs to change the Ward part. He could keep Marvin or Doug or Rastus or Festus or Cletus or Kefauver or whatever. He just needs to change the Ward part.
The last time we heard about him, I believe, was that AEW show that Steven sat in the front row. It turned out that Marvin Ward was like 2 seats over from him. And people spotted him there in the front row.
And probably started asking him for money on the spot.
You know, when I was 14, the first time I went to Fan Week, the last night in Morristown, where Rob Moore booked that or gave me the idea for that King of the Mountain tournament, that was the night we did the training session where several of the fans got in the ring with Brian Hildebrand and Brian Logan, and Chris Jericho was like the referee / instructor, although he was injured with his arm. He couldn't do much. And, you know, we learned a few basic moves and then had a little bit of a match. No fans there, by the way, for anyone listening. It was a closed-door thing for, you know, the smart fans from out of town that weren't coming back. All of a sudden, in the middle of the match, I get pulled off the apron and thrown into the post. And I go with it. You know, I'm having fun. I'm a kid doing this. It was Doug Gibson who was there. I guess it was his ring, I think, maybe. And he did that. And then after it was over, Dave Lane and Tim Knoll, who were fans from Virginia, great guys. Dave Lane's still out there. I know he listens to the show. Really great guy. Pulled me aside that, like, you know that guy's a piece of crap, right? Like, they were already hip to, like, what a con man he was in 94 before anyone was. They knew it right away. That was the first memory I have of him.
Oh, God. As a matter of fact, years after that, because when he canceled those shows, I fucking called up and he talked to his dad on the phone. He wouldn't get on the phone. He said, well, he's just lost too much money. I said, you tell him if your jack-off son doesn't quit playing around in the wrestling business, he's going to lose more than money because we do this for a living and we take it seriously, and he's lost all this talent a fucking weekend of work, and he's lost me a goddamn weekend of fucking revenue, and if we ever see him again, he's going to end up in the fucking hospital. I just want you to know that because your son's a fucking goof. He got hot at me. He said, well, I'm not going to let anybody talk to me that way. I said, you just did. Because what are you going to do about it? You come down here and I'll say it to your fucking face, you fat country fuck. So that was 1994. In 2000, I think it was, when did The Marine come out with John Cena?
Oh, geez.
2007, 2008?
Yeah, in that range, yeah.
The idiot had come back and was running those shows again that were drawing pretty good. And Dennis Condrey called me and said, Marvin Ward wants to bring you to Virginia. I said, what? He said, he really is running these shows and he's doing good business, but he wants to bring you in here. So Marvin Ward paid me $1,500 to come to his show, plus another $1,500 to come in a day before and tell him how to run his fucking wrestling promotion. And then he took us all to the Marine that night afterwards and took us all to the movies. I got $3,000 to walk to the ring with the Midnight Express on his show and to tell him that everything he was doing was wrong. And here's how you really do it. And he didn't do anything. And they were looking for him moments later. And he was underground again.
Was $3,000 enough money to make you sit through the Marine?
Well, Stace was with me and, you know, she wanted to see it. And I was like, all right. And we were, you know, we went to the movies with the Midnight Express. And
is it weird?
Marvin sat down the fucking way.
Is it weird for you seeing like Cena, someone who you knew you had in OVW when he first got started, to see him on the big screen in a movie theater? Is it at all weird?
Yeah, it kind of was back then. I mean, you know, it was... I don't want to knock John when I say this, but it was even weirder seeing Rock in actual movies that really fucking drew. And it's a big budget shit. I mean, you know, because that was one of the WWE Studios movies. And it was the joke at the time we watched the movie. I said, my God, the same people wrote this movie as write their TV show. Whenever they can't figure something out, they just blow something up. It was the same thing, but it was a big shock seeing Rock in actual Hollywood motion pictures that grossed hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, that was kind of cool.